Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson. But it's all tricks aside, because tonight, we're turning the paranormal into the normal. Join me as we explore the gray areas of reality. We're going to talk all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, and aliens. Let's see how it's all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association, and we are live. So if you're an experiencer yourself, or you're just plain nosy, be sure to send me your question and subscribe to the podcast. Now, get ready, because it's going to get deep. No, really, we're going to go way out there, because this is Beyond the TinFoil Hat. What's happening, my paranormal junkies, and welcome to Beyond the TinFoil Hat, and I'm your host, Danny Whitson. Hope you guys have had a fantastic week, and I hope you're keeping the paranormal normal. We have got a great show lined up for you guys tonight, so you definitely don't want to miss this one. Also, get your questions ready, too, because like I said, this is going to be a very interesting topic. But first, let's give a quick shout-out to our Patreon channel. That's Patreon/Heed the World. If you guys can, donate what you can, but I believe $4 and then $12. Two different types of packages out there. Each package gets you some very interesting opportunities, a lot of cool things with our very own Ryan Stacy. Also, speaking of Ryan, you can get over to the Facebook page at Ryan Stacy, UFO and Paranormal Investigator, and check out some of the interesting articles that he's posting right now on our Facebook page. And if you have an experience of your own that you would like to share or talk to Ryan about, go over to the experiencersupport.org and let Ryan know. You can also check out some cool articles there from our Tessa team. Don Peterson has a very great article on the website right now that you can check out. So definitely check those things out. Our Patreon, Heed the World, you'll see it across the screen throughout the show. So anytime if you feel like you would like to donate a little bit to help support the podcast, help support Ryan's work, feel free to do so. All right, my paranormal junkies. I hope you guys have been keeping the paranormal normal. I know I have. It's just part of my life now. Tonight's guest, this is exciting. This is a very interesting topic. I find this topic extremely interesting, and the more and more I learn about it, and it just blows my mind. Tonight's guest has been working on something that he calls Upsight Vision, okay? And he's been working with scientists at IONS. And also, this has resulted into one of the first peer-reviewed papers on the topic. Peer-reviewed means it's taken serious, folks. So this is the real deal. So I tell you what, if you guys would, let's welcome tonight's guest, Tom Matt.
Hey, Danny, thanks for having me on tonight.
Hey, thanks for being here, Tom. I tell you what, I told a little bit about yourself, but if you don't mind, will you let our viewers and our listeners know?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about what Upsight Vision is. Let me describe what it is, or tell you what it is, and then I'll describe it. So Upsight Vision is this ability that I acquired about 12 years ago to actually be able to see and interact with these holographic images that are everywhere around me, or us, I should say. I think I just happen to be able to see them. I think if other people had this ability, they would also be able to see this, what I call a hidden biosphere. And I acquired this ability after I came out of an addiction and a mental health crisis. I was sitting on the couch one day, and I look over, and I started seeing these things. And there were the first, I'll tell you the first four things I saw. First thing I saw was the back of a dinosaur. Then I saw blood cells moving through a human body. Then I saw a slot machine. And then I saw the Grim Reaper. Now, as you can imagine, with addiction issues, and actually, funny enough, at the time I was definitely high. So I thought to myself, okay, I know for whatever reason, I had this intuitive thing. I knew I could do this when I wasn't using. got cleaned up. I've been 11 plus years sober, so I'm clean and sober now. And I also knew at the time that if I did not get clean and sober, nobody would take this ability, this thing that I realized I was be able to do seriously. So let me kind of tell you also what these things look like so people have an idea in their head exactly what I'm seeing. And I'm going to give you 2 examples. Hopefully people have seen at least one of these. A few years back on Netflix, there was a show called The Queen's Gambit. And there was a scene or a few scenes where the protagonist is laying in the bed and she's looking at the ceiling and she sees the chess pieces on the ceiling, right? She sees them and she can move them around, or she sees some moves ahead when she's going to play her next partner or her competitor. That's what it looks like. Another example is most people have seen the Iron Man movies. And when Tony Stark is in his office and he's submersed in this universe around him, believe it or not, it is that detailed and graphic. Now, I can't swipe things forward, left, and right with my hand like he does. You can't get to files. However, I can change these images with a thought. So that's kind of what I've been dealing with the last dozen years. It is both fascinating, at times scary. And to what you said earlier, there is a peer review paper coming out right now. It's under peer review. Hopefully it'll be accepted and published in the next 60 or 90 days. Last summer, I went to IONS for about a week and we did 200 tests. We did these 200 tests. We can get into that in a minute. So basically that's what I've been dealing with, and that's what I see, and that's what Upsight Vision is.
Okay, first of all, I would like to say congratulations on getting clean. That's a ginormous accomplishment.
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Now, when did you? Okay, so you said this happened. You were high the first time this happened, correct?
Yes.
And so, when did you realize you're like, this is this isn't something that's caused by the drugs or any type of hallucination from a withdrawals or
so? Well, that's a good question. So that's a funny question too, because when you're high, you want to stay high. But this time I was like, I want to be sober because I know I can do this, right? I knew, like I said, it was intuitive. I knew I could do this without drugs. So, that was literally the last time I did Coke. And within the next day, clean and sober, 3-5 days later, every day I tried to do it, I could do it. I played with it. At first I was like, okay, okay, so let's say you and I are talking right now. So let me give you an example of what it is. Say, Danny, you and I are talking right now. We're talking about Upsight. If we were talking about how to make a pizza, right? Even though we're talking about how to make a pizza, if I looked over and did this, it may show me a pizza, but it could just as easily show me a shark swimming through the water, or it could show me a spaceship. It does not have to be related to what we're talking about. So that's one of the first reasons I knew it was not a product of being inside my mind. I was like, wait a minute, I'm thinking about this, but this is coming from somewhere else. I'm picking up some kind of waves, I'm receiving something. Now, once I've received it and engaged it, and let's call it tuned in, then I can change it, like I said earlier, with a thought. And that's like I said, that's what we did at IONS. We did some of the things. I was hooked up to an EEG machine, and we measured my brain waves in 2 conditions. The first condition was memory recall, or your mind's eye. So this Upsight Vision is not your mind's eye. It is not a good memory recall. So, and let me tell you why. If I'm driving a car, let's say Danny, you and I are driving a car. Let's say we're driving down Interstate 85 and we're talking about the Jaws poster we saw as a kid. I could drive the car and talk about the poster, and I could think about it and remember the colors in it, everything about it. Now, if I could not drive a car while I'm engaged with Upsight because I can't do any motor activity, my eyes have to focus on it. And obviously, if my eyes are focusing on something outside of me, I can't drive a car. If I was a passenger in that car, I could do it. But if I was driving a car, and there's other ways we could tell that initially it starts externally. 1, my eyes get tired, just like if you're reading a book or watching a movie. Number 2, my pupils dilate. When something is arousing or exciting, and it's impossible for a human to willfully dilate their pupils. So we know it's coming externally. And another third way to know it's external is there's something called smooth pursuit eye movements. Let's say you're tracking a gazelle running across the Sahara. While your eyes follow it, if it's really there, if your eyes are really following something, it's smooth pursuit. That's why they call it that. If you're faking it, they jump. So in other words, if I was looking at a wall if you were sitting next to me and we were both looking at, quote, a blank wall, but I saw a gazelle running across, you'd be able to track my eyes, and they could tell something's external that I'm following. So these are the ways we know it doesn't start externally. I'm picking something up, a different frequency. We'll definitely talk about this, how people that are tripping on psilocybin or DMT, they get in those states, and then they have group hallucinations. I think they're tuning into something. Their brain.
I do want to say I totally agree with that. Yet I don't want people to ever think that is an excuse for what, or an answer for what they're experiencing, because so many people who do that route went that route. They have some of the same experiences, which is very interesting.
Sure.
The Terrence McKenna, we talked about the robot elves,
Yep.
which a lot of people experience. So a lot of that stuff I find super interesting. Now, but let me ask you this real quick, Tom. How would you compare this to remote viewing? Is this any similarity to remote viewing?
So yeah, that's a great question. And there's a post on the IONS Noetics website that I wrote is Upsight Vision a psychic ability, right? And the answer I think is yes, ultimately yes. One of the things, it is not remote viewing, it's not telepathy, it's not lucid dreaming, and it's not precognitive, but it has elements of all of those things. So to answer your question, it is not remote viewing. Now, when we think of remote viewing, let's make sure we're talking about the same thing here. Remote viewing is something that the government described to find a target. And if you hit the target in the envelope or however they want to do it, if you hit the target, you remote viewed and you pass the test, right? Mm-hmm. From my perspective, that's like hitting the D note because somebody wants you to hit the D note, or hitting the C note if you're singing. I have a more expansive idea and view of remote viewing. I can remote view the Eiffel Tower with people around it, right? And I think that is remote viewing. Now, if I can't do exactly what the test is to pass a government remote view test, I think it's the same thing, or it has elements of it, if that makes sense. So I think it's like singing, but the classic example of remote viewing is to pass the test they want you to hit of a target. And I don't know if I can do that because I've never done it in those circumstances.
So, okay, now, whenever you get these images, or when they appear and you're able to focus on it and see what's going on, you said sometimes it can be almost like a random image that pops up.
Sure.
Is it trying to tell you? I mean, do you feel like there's some type of why? Is there some type of communication? What is going on?
Yeah. So right, that Danny. So we'll find that out. Maybe 2, 3, 4 years. There's so many answers. Yes, there's obviously something communicating with me. I don't know where these messages are coming from. Right. But here's the thing. I could do this in a lab all day long, even though I said this for years, but after going out to IONS, it's very tiring to do it under those supervisions. So while I can do it all day home under my environment, I think to do it in a lab would be just way too exhausting. But my point is I can do it under supervision. If we had the technology, and maybe we need to create the technology, I think we could maybe triangulate these images to see where they're coming from, right? Are they coming from another part of my DNA? That's what my wife thinks. Now, that's a really interesting hypothesis. And we know there's a study I just read a couple of months ago where they can actually encode a movie into a DNA strand. So that intrigues me, right? They can
really? Wow.
Yeah, for real. Is it coming from another part of the matrix? Is it coming from another planet? Is it coming from a spaceship? Right? I don't know the answer. I do not know the answer to that question, but
I think I know you've heard the theory, almost like consciousness in our minds are kind of like a satellite that some people seem to believe, a real big belief here, especially with Tessa and the podcast here, is we have a tendency to believe that, the paranormal, all these things that's going on right now, with UFOs, a lot of it is all related almost on a consciousness level. There's another type of reality that exists out there that we don't know anything about. And, just like our brains are so much more than an organ, It's
a transceiver and a receiver.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Now, first of all, how brave were you to come out to tell people about this? Because it sounds like you've got plenty of support now. but I'm sure that hasn't always been the case, correct?
Yeah. So actually, let's talk about the hidden biosphere, and then let me answer that question, because you said something that I think, if people have had experiences that I thought about a lot, and maybe this can resonate with one of your listeners or watchers. So we talk about extra dimensions, we talk about interdimensional, we talk about extraterrestrial, we talk about the Akashic record, the noosphere. I called it the longest time the organic metaverse, but I'm kind of landing on a hidden biosphere, right? What I think is happening is this. I have somehow been able to tune in and stay open to a hidden biosphere. Now, when I first started researching this, I came across the word umwelt. The umwelt is the way a biological organism moves through the environment. Now, before this, we share the Earth, our environment, with birds, worms, humans, whales, all that stuff. The way I move through it is different than a worm, is different than a bird. We're all in the same environment. Right now, a worm does not see the same thing that we see, but they are here on Earth. Whatever happened to me, I am seeing more of what is in fact here on Earth, right? For whatever reason, I'm seeing more than what I could before. Now, are there extra dimensions in this place? Yes. Can I remote view or do pieces of it in this place? Yes. So I like the idea of having a hidden biosphere that some of us experiencers, paranormal, mediums can tune into, because that makes it measurable. Now we can get in a lab. We can, if a bunch of us can do it together, we can measure it. And if you more data points, the more data collection, the better. And there's a reason I think this is happening, whether it's mutation, but I think it's for human survival on Earth, whether it's climate change or if you want to get scary and say something is coming. I don't know, but I think that's happening. So that's that point, right? Now back to your question about, do I have the support? Yeah. So when I first came out of this, and this is really important, this is a dozen years ago, and I want to be clear. I wrote a book about this called Jesus Goes to Hollywood, a Memoir of Madness. It is about the 1 year that I left my wife and kids. I left my thriving business because I thought I was being followed by government satellites. I thought my kids were alien doppelgangers. I had a serious psychosis. Something was wrong with me. An idea would enter my head, and I would believe it to be true. And I believed it to be true so much that I didn't believe anything in my life was real. Long story. So that's the book. But the book ends with me. Well, it ends with me trying to figure out what's going on with Upsight. But I ended it with a psychiatric teaching hospital, homeless. That I connect. By the way, I've connected with my wife and kids, family. My kids are grown men now. We're all happily back together. So awesome. When I first wrote about this, I talked more about the family drama in the book, getting through addiction recovery and stuff like that. And I talked more about the search for what Upsight is, knowing I was going to reach, and I did reach out to a bunch of academics, a bunch of different neuroscientists, and I minimized the alien piece of it, because I didn't think people would take me serious to have this ability, and said, oh, by the way, because of this ability, I was studied by aliens. Maybe they had some hand in making me this way. So since then, I've realized, and that's common too, it's called redaction. And people that have experiences like this, it's self-redaction. And I learned about that in Dr. Diane Pasulka's class. She's a UFO religious studies professor. And I took a class 2 years ago. And it's funny because I kind of wrote jokingly about it in the book. I talked about it, but I talked about the more absurd things that happen and not the real things, or not the more serious things that happen, because I made light of it. So I had support. People know I'm clean and sober. And the more clean and sober I am, the more I talked about this, the more I've been taking it seriously. And obviously, since IONS has gotten involved and I've come out, I went out there, it's taken it to a whole nother level. And many, many more people are very curious about this.
Okay, well, let's do this real quick. Tom, we do have our first question of the evening. Our very own Liv Light. She shows up every week and comes up with some of the best questions. Liv says, welcome, Tom. Can you explain how Upsight Vision connects to astral projection, precognition, and telepathy? Do you ever have auditory experiences?
Okay, great questions. I'm going to take each one separately. So, yes, I can absolutely astral project, right? I can go out there, and I just call it playing amongst the stars. I don't even know where this place is that I'm seeing, right? And to me, that is where abstract knowledge lies. When I first came out of this, I became obsessed with mathematics and topological spaces. And as a side note, there's no topological space that I can't deconstruct in my field of vision or anything. It's extraordinary. So I do that. Telepathy, sometimes while I'm seeing something, there's a communication, but it's more visual while I'm doing Upsight. Okay. And the precog thing. So I'm going to tell you a couple of precog stories because they're frustrating and annoying. And I wish I could do it better because I have no control over it, but it happens, right? Let's say I see Upsight and I'll watch a bridge collapse. 7 hours later, a bridge will collapse online, right? I'll read a story about it. At the same time, I can see an avalanche, but there's no avalanche story, 1, 5, 6 days later. So that happens. And even mundane things like getting into a fender bender, right? It's not that I get into one, but the next morning I'll drive out of my parking lot and I'll see 2 people get a fender bender. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So it happens, but I can't control it.
Okay. Well, you mentioned the bridge collapse. Did you happen to see?
No. The reason I brought that up is because that was asked the day that happened. I actually saw a bridge collapse years ago, and the day it happened, I was asked about this on another podcast. That's why it's fresh on my mind. I did not see the most recent one. No. To the auditory experiences. So this is really interesting, and it's something. Sometimes I don't say an auditory experience. I will say I will have a feeling with a thought that it's the decision I should make. I do not hear voices, right? I do not hear a person's voice whispering or an alien voice telling me what to do at all. And it doesn't even happen with Upsight or without Upsight. But that said, I do know certain things I should probably lean to for whatever reason. You can even call that basic intuition or instinct or whatever. I think it's more than that because I didn't have it before. But I don't think I can prove that in any way. But it just does, in fact, happen.
So, I mean, now, do you talk to others that can have this same type of Upsight vision as you? Or are you like the only one who experiences the way you do?
So believe it or not, the answer is yes, there's others and they're coming forward. But believe it or not, because I didn't believe it and I still don't, and I'm hoping somebody's going to send me an article or something, that there is no record of anything in the ufology. There's no ancient record of anybody talking or writing about this specifically like this, right? And I've asked ufologists, I've asked people that study this, and there's nothing. So that kind of blows my mind, right? So it kind of blows my mind. And so it's new. Now, that said, how new is it? Since I've been talking about this, every time someone will email me and say, I have this or some version of this. Some of the people want to contact me, and we've talked on Zoom. There's a woman in Virginia that I do plan on meeting. She's described it exactly like me. And I think, and this is where I think it's going to take it to the next level. If her and I are in a room sitting next to each other, I firmly believe that we would be able to communicate non-verbally through Upsight. She could see it. She could change it with a thought. I could see it. Now, that may sound ridiculous, and maybe it should, but I also believe it's so easily testable, right? We can see if it happens. And even if it doesn't work, I think there's some tweaking that might need to be done. I don't know what it is. Maybe we need to get in the same frequency. I don't know how to do that. Why would I think that? Because obviously I'm communicating, like we said, Danny, with something. Something is sending me these messages, and I'm communicating back and forth with it, this non-human intelligence. And be clear, it's different from time to time. Sometimes when I'm doing it, I know there's a malevolent thing there that I can choose to ignore. Sometimes it's benevolent, and sometimes it feels like it's God, God, light. So yeah, there's a lot here.
Well, we do have another question here from Live Light. And also let me say, folks, for you other guys watching, if you got any questions, feel free to put them up, and we will get them on here and ask Tom. Liv, though, she's challenging me now. I have to make sure I pronounce this right. Okay, making me work, Liv. Here we go. Do you believe you are accessing the Akashic
records?
Akashic records or Noosphere?
The Akashic records and the Noosphere. Yeah, and I do, and I think I maybe I've thought about this. The research again. I do, and why do I think that? Because there's knowledge here. I have this mathematical coordinate system that's multidimensional, and it's built in my mind. It's just sitting there in a drawer, for lack of another word, ready to be built. Just like Tesla built his alternating current generator. He said he had it built before he actually put it together. I have this same thing that I could, if I had the right team, I could create a software out of. The noosphere, the same thing. And now here's what's interesting about that. The Akashic Records, if I understand it correctly, that's all the past knowledge or all the knowledge of the universe is in there. Now, there is a trickster element to this. This does not always tell me the truth. This will show me complete and absolute nonsense and lies. When I first did it, it's just like anybody else that would have it. One of the first things you would be like, holy cow, I'm going to win football games. I'm going to win a horse race, right? So I tried to win some gambling with it. No, it literally is. You can almost make the case, whatever it shows me, bet on the opposite. But I can't win races and I cannot do any kind of things like that with it. It will show me a Kentucky Derby race, but it will show me a not real one with a different horse.
What do you think? Okay, Tom. Well, clearly, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but from my world and my community, there's a guy called the Amazing Randy. Well, he has since passed, but now Steve Banachek has now taken over, and he had the $1 million challenge for any psychic medium out there, and they would always do the if you can pass this certain test challenge, you can have all this money locked up in a box. And the funds really were there. And it is a legit type challenge. And, to this day, no one, I don't know how many people have stepped up and tried to do it either, but the money's still there. Now, so, and that's always one of the biggest critiques from people any skeptic about anybody with any type of psychic medium type ability. And then why not you just tell me the lottery numbers or this? So do you think there is some type of law or rule to to this, as far as the universe, because I mean, I am a firm believer in psychic abilities. I believe, I think all of us have some type of potential for it, but I think other people are just much more better at it, like I'm not going to be able to dunk a basketball, and
yeah, exactly.
So those kind of things. But do you think there's restrictions to
this tees up. So I'm going to answer it. The answer is absolutely. And I'm going to say why. I think this is a mutation in my gene, right? Mutations are for human or for survival. If you believe mutations, well, we know mutations happen, but if you believe it's an evolutionary mutation, it's to help a person, or that if it's a good one, it's to help the organism survive. Now, you could make a really strong case that if I could pick lottery tickets, I would be in danger. That is something that would put you in danger, right? So I do think it will not let me do something like that. And let me say that with another remote viewing experience I've had. I cannot remote view Epstein's suicide, right? I can't do it. It won't let me do it because that'd be dangerous. I cannot remote view, and I've tried Area 51. What it does, it shows two guard dogs, these Dobermans, like those old German war movies, Dobermans in front of this door, and I can't get past it. Now, I think that's survival. Just the same way, if your hand is going towards an oven, your brain is smart enough to pull back before it hurts. I think this thing is an intuitive knowing like that. So yeah, I do think there's some restrictions. I don't know if I'd call it universal. I think it's more biological. But yeah, that's a really good question, Danny. And I've thought about it a lot. I think it's not going to let me see something that could be dangerous to me to know.
That's interesting too, because I mean, we all know, we talk about the natural laws of physics and, Newton's laws and maybe there's laws that exist in this world as well, So I've always found that interesting. If you were able to, predict the winning lottery numbers, what kind of out of whack that would throw the universe.
Absolutely.
So,
sure.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. But here's the other interesting thing. Why are you giving the things that you are giving? Why are you shown a bridge collapse or a car accident and then not the winning lotto? You know what I mean?
No, I do. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of things here. So the first thing I said is that I've literally over the years, built this coordinate system. Now, I think that's Akashic Records, whatever, and it looks nothing. Well, that's not true. It's like the Cartesian coordinate system on steroids. How's that? It's like it's so much more than, better than, different than. Okay, so that is important for us. Maybe that's something humans need for whatever, or I need to create for whatever. I also see, when we will talk about where you can send people. Well, actually, we'll say it now. There's an Upsight Vision Facebook page. You can go there and join. And the reason I'm telling you that is because there's an image I see of DNA. When everyone thinks about DNA, you think about the pictures you've seen in school books of the double helix. But if you're a geneticist or anything like that, you know much more deeply than that. I see something that is unseeable with the naked eye interacting with our DNA. I see a ring connecting, or a circle around both sides, and I see these little candy cane hooks as well. So, and it's almost like it's an invisible, I call it dark matter because we can't pick up dark matter on the electromagnetic spectrum. You can't see it through a microscope. I see something interacting with it. So that's helpful. And I also see double rainbows. And I'm using these examples because these are things people can visualize. The double rainbow is an illusion of perspective. It's the smaller rainbow in the middle with the colors coming towards us, red, orange, yellow, green. And the other one, a little bit lighter, diffused, with the colors going the opposite direction. Now, if you would ask any physicist, sure, it's an illusion of perspective. It's smaller rainbow, bigger, and they tell you why. And maybe that is true, but there's also something else going on from Upsight Vision. The middle rainbow is a funnel coming towards us, right? And when what's the word? When it gets too tight, when the waves get too tight, it unhinges and goes backwards in the other perspective. And the other one is a funnel going the other way. So that is not a normal vision. A physicist would say that's nonsense, but that is what I see. Whether it's real or not, well, no, it is real because the things, by the way, I said there's a trickster element. The things that keep coming back again and again seem to be the things that are true. So I see that all the time.
So it'll stay consistent.
Yes, exactly.
So it's almost like it's trying to bring, this is what we want you to focus on, Tom.
Absolutely. And building the team. And that's why I'm here, because somebody else is going to have this, some listener, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but somebody's going to watch the TinFoil Hat, turn it on in a month from now and say, holy crap, I can't believe this. And they're going to want to know more. I know this. And I just know that is a pre-con thing I know of. I know that's going to happen. I mean, there's certain. So that question, can I read that question?
Yeah, we got a question. Like I said, and Liv she has the best questions.
Yeah,
right?
Good.
She's our champion questionnaire. So she comes up with the best questions. Do you believe you are accessing another dimension, like an evolution of our future human abilities? Do we all have this ability, maybe suppressed in our DNA?
So the first question, again, the hidden biosphere, right? I think it's here. Is it another dimension? It has extra dimensions in it. There's no doubt that when I get in there, there's more dimensions. And that's why I think I have this visual spatial ability. Okay. So yes, it's a hidden biosphere with extra dimensions. Do we all have this ability? Look, can everybody sing? Maybe not. Some are not really good at it. I know I can't sing at all. Right? So maybe, and do I believe it's suppressed in our DNA? Yes. Even people that have it, I believe it's suppressed for a number of reasons. For one, if a child tells a parent they have this, the parent's going to say, don't say anything, and they're going to turn it off, especially if they say it again and again and again. And number two, maybe something in our environment, drugs or whatever, diet or suppressing it. And, but I also think it can be expressed. I think it can be upregulated in our genes and turned on. I know it can because it happened to me.
That's interesting. Let's get to this because this is what I'm wondering. Okay, so like something is showing you something consistently. It's trying to get your attention. Do you have a theory of? I mean, you did mention other dimensions. This could be coming from another. Who's the culprit? Who's sending this?
So, many things. But I do believe that there's one non-human intelligence that seemed to be prodding me along, right? There's this non-human intelligent beings that seem to be benevolent and want me / us to figure this out. They don't want to tell me. There's people call themselves star seeds. You probably had them on the show, right? A star seed is somebody that gets messages from non-human intelligence, and they say, this is what we should do. These beings are not telling me anything. They're not telling me do this, do this. They are maybe showing, or I'm seeing it, and maybe they're kind of prodding me along, maybe nudging me in the right direction or this kind of thing. But they definitely do not have all the answers, or if they do not show me all the answers. So to answer your question, I think they want me / us to figure this out, right? I think they've set me on this journey. That's what it feels like.
So what do you think, maybe, what are they asking? What do you think?
So, all right, now we're just getting at the hypothetical. So worst case scenario, let's say they are of our planet Earth, right? They're a non-human intelligence that live amongst humans, and they want to make sure we don't blow up the planet with our nuclear warheads, right? They're like, listen, or let's say they live amongst us and they know a non-human, an alien extraterrestrial is coming to planet Earth and they need humans' help. Maybe we need to work together. Now, these are all things I've thought about. And if you pay attention to the news and you sit there and think about why all these billionaires are making bunkers and all these bizarre things are happening and why the government is slowly dripping out disclosure, you can make a case for, either one of those things. But
absolutely, you can. I think, it is very interesting. As I say this all the time, we live in some very interesting times, Tom. Yeah, never would I have ever imagined 20 years ago that the news would actually show actual UFOs and what's all going on right now. And I've tried to come up with some of my own theories too. When you think about, are these just a higher evolved being that are Earthlings that have been here just way before us? And it does make you wonder. A lot of people do the nuclear war. When we had nuclear weapons, a lot of UFOs are seen around, nuclear sites and stuff like that. There's a lot of correlation there. But I have a tendency to believe that they are here, and I think this may be their planet as well. Because that would be maybe their own concern with us screwing it up. But it's interesting that they would take the stance of communicating with individuals like you. So what do you think? Do you think they? I'm trying to think of the right way how to put this. Why do you think they picked you? If
I don't know. Case? Okay, so yeah, I don't know if I've been picked or. Well, that's not true. If let's say Upsight is this ability, right? And they know I have it. Or actually, no, let me give you this example. Let me tell you another remote viewing experience I had, and this is with Grays. Okay, this is going back a dozen years. And every time I'm on a podcast, I tell this story because it's interesting and it sets the tone about picking people and if they see you in this place. So one of the first things I ever did, and I didn't know it was remote viewing at the time. I'm just looking at Upsight and watching this thing, right? I stumble upon this spaceship in the astral plane or whatever, it's remote viewing, and these Grays are standing in a circle, right? They're standing what looks like a clear glass table, and I think it's blank, and they are looking down at it, and I'm like, why are they looking at a blank table, right? They're all standing, and this is holographic, remember. And I get closer and I realize that they're remote viewing a town, and the eyes, these big gray eyes, are following the people, and when one leaves one field of vision, the other Gray would pick it up. And I realized they were remote viewing a town in the United States. And again, this all happened in less than a minute. I'm like, wow, this is wild. What are they doing? I'm wondering. Two of the Grays looked at me, right? They looked at me in this space. And I look at them and I'm like, hey, do they see me? Because I don't know. This is new. They start coming towards me and I jump out, right? And I'm like, holy cow, I was scared. So that is one of the first times that this happened where I know you can see beings in this plane, or at least I can in the holographic space. Now, also with the Grays, while I'm doing math, while I've done math, they would show up to annoy me. Let's say I was working on something, trying to concentrate. They would show up. They were like a nuisance. Those, again, I'm talking about the grays now. They were like, I won't say mosquitoes because can you offend a gray? Is that not, are you not allowed to say that now? But they were annoying.
It hasn't went that far yet, but it's coming. But go ahead.
No, they were annoying. So to your question, I don't know. All I know is that when you're in this space, these beings can see you. And if they can see you, just like if we walked into a jungle and you saw a panther and made eye contact with it, now you're curious. The next time it shows up, are they studying you? No, but they know they can see you. They know you're making eye contact. You're making eye contact. Just like there's other beings in the jungle, like insects, that don't pay attention. Just like the flora and fauna. Do they know we're there in the jungle? I don't know. This space is like that, with as many, I don't want to say biological, but as many non-human intelligent things as you can imagine. So I don't know if it's being picked or just one of many people. I just think that I've had the curiosity and the desire to act on it and take it as far as I can. Now that, maybe that's the answer to your question. Maybe they know things.
I think there is something to that, because I mean, you are on a podcast right now talking about it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like I said, I've interviewed a lot of people, and a lot of people, they're very passionate about it when they get the opportunity to share. And like I said, they may know you better than what you think, Tom. So but that is wild. That is very interesting. Liv does have a question, and this is what we'll do, Liv. I'll read this real quick, and if Tom, if you do want to touch on anything real quick, but after the break, we'll be coming up here in a minute. He can pick it back up. But she did say after the break, can you describe your experiences with the NHI, non-human intelligence, specifically what the circle of grays were looking at on that table?
Yeah, after the break, I can tell a little more for sure.
Gotcha, absolutely. So we will. Did you ever see the table grays again?
Never seen the table. I don't know if the grays that have been a nuisance to me. Actually, I have another experience with the grays. I'll talk about that.
Okay, but this was, you said, years ago. This is one of your first episodes. Without a doubt. This was like, I was realizing, again, I was still trying to figure out where these things were coming from, right? It could be, for all I know, there could be a van out there just sending shit stuff up in the air, and I'm picking it up, and it's a big government joke. It's a lot of work for that. And we're screwing with Tom.
Yeah, right? I mean, really, I don't know.
Well, I tell you what, and maybe we should come up with a better word than grays. Now, I feel kind of bad calling them grays. That seems like derogatory. Sorry, grays.
Well, that's, you know what? That's the word. That's what everyone calls them. And there's different kinds apparently.
And 20 years from now, we're going to be monsters for saying that.
Yeah, probably.
But okay, well, this is, like I said, I find this, so interesting, so wild, and I think there's other layers there to why they have chosen you to show you these things, and the other people out there who have these same experiences. But I tell you what, Tom, this is what we'll do. So far, this has been a very interesting conversation, guys. Keep coming with some questions. Liv, she's killing you on the questions. Liv has got all the best questions, but I know we got some more viewers out here, got some good questions. Guys, just hang around. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. We'll be right back after the break with Tom Matt.
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today.
It's your business. It's your property. Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. Go to blacklightiss.com.
All right, guys, we are back here with Tom Matt talking about Upsight Vision. So far, like I said, this has been a very interesting conversation. Tom, now, like we had a question from Liv before the break. She had mentioned describe your experiences with the NHI non-human intelligences, and also what were those grays looking at on the table?
So.
What do you believe is what you can
well, no,
see?
no, I saw the town. It's funny because I had there's an experience. There's an artist in Sweden. His name is Olaf Rockner, and I've had him draw this illustration. And I used to think back on what it looked like, but since he's drew it, that's what I see now. It's funny, you know how when you see something, when you have a picture of it, that's the memory. So his illustration is my memory. In any case, it was a town. It was a town. I don't know what they were doing, but I know this. If we could have watched them longer, we could have learned something more about them. The fact I knew this, here's what I knew. Their eyes were like, their eyes were sending some kind of signal. You know what I mean? They were either controlling. I don't know if they were controlling or following, but it was important for the eyes to be on that person and for the person not to be out of one field of vision or another. So I thought that was interesting. And the other thing I knew they had to do it as a chorus. Like I said, there was a dozen of them. They were a team. They were not just, they had the coverage. They had a 360-degree coverage. Even the two that came towards me, they were still covering it. So again, I don't know what they were doing. No idea.
Well, that you mentioned before the break also that you have another gray story.
Yeah. So, all right. So, and let's talk about the grays for a minute. Cause I'm not an expert on any type of alien or extraterrestrial, any of this stuff. All I know is what I've seen and experienced with Upsight and the things I've looked into because of that. Now, the reason I'm saying this is not a lot of people have had horrible experiences with grays, right? They've been abducted out of their home, horrible experiences. That's never happened to me. As I said, to me, they were a nuisance in holographic when I see them in hologram. That said, recently, within the last couple of years, I thought I was lucid dreaming, right? And I am in my, and there's a YouTube video. I have a YouTube site, Upsight Vision Tom Matt. There's only one video on there. It's about 20 minutes long. It starts out with this experience about how I woke up from a dream with my head, in a gray's hands, right? And I thought it was a dream, and the next thing I know, I wake up, but my head is 6 inches above the bed, and it falls back into the bed. Now, this gray didn't leave the room; it was just gone. So I say it a lot more articulately on the video, but that was, and what the dream was, it was showing me like it was almost showing me everything about 30, 50 years in the future and everything. And I like, oh, this is cool. And then everything it showed me, it erased. So it showed me what was going to happen, then erased it. And then I woke up, then I had that experience and I woke up. So that was, you could make the case benign or benevolent. It was certainly not a malevolent experience with the grays. So it was, I don't remember somebody asked me once, do you remember what it felt like? Were their hands warm, cold, clammy, No, I don't remember any of that. In fact, like I said, I thought it was a dream, except for when I woke up, my head was 6 inches above the bed. Boom. So that was a wild experience. So much so that I wrote about it. But that was benign, benevolent or benign, not malevolent. And from what I understand, there's different kinds of grays, but people that study this know much more than I do.
That's very, now you mentioned lucid dreaming. Now I had that happen to me. I've lucid dreamed one time in my entire life. Don't know how I did it. I remember I was having a dream and then I realized in the middle of it that I was dreaming. And which I've never done before, and I just thought, wow, this is what it is. This is all, this isn't happening. And then shortly after that, I woke up, but it was such a very odd experience, such a very odd thing, but with what happened to you though, that wouldn't say so much that's lucid dreaming though. That's almost like right?
I don't know. It's
kind of up off a pillow.
Right, right. It was like both. It was both. It was a lucid dreaming that may have been happening. So it was like a maybe telepathy. Maybe somebody
lucid reality.
Yeah, it was wild, is what it was.
So that's now okay. So this is something else that I find I always wonder about because you saw the grays, and a lot of people always see them that have the same experience. Not the same experience as far as what happens, but as far as what they see. Where do you think take back the first time you saw the grays, did it scare you?
Well, yeah, for the most part, yeah. And actually, yeah, for that experience, it startled me. It did scare me. What am I saying? Of course it scared me, right? I was like, they could see me. I didn't know what I was doing. Right. It's like like I said, I'll use this example. It's like walking into a jungle or a forest and then you turn to the right and you see a panther. That's going to scare you. And you notice the panther sees you. That's the other thing. When it pays attention to you is when the fear starts. You're like, wait a minute. They know I'm here. They are aware of my presence. Whatever that looks like in this space, they know I exist. That's wild. Now, I haven't told this a long time. So the grays know our culture, right? They know our culture. When I was working on the math in the beginning, there was this particular gray, or I don't know, who would literally, you are going to laugh, Danny, you're a magician comedian, flip me the bird.
Hey, that's my kind of gray, by the way.
Right. Well, think about how ridiculous that is. That means they know our culture. That means they know what that means, right?
Gosh,
Bizarre.
I would love that.
Yeah, I know, right? You're like, why? And look, you would love it. You'd be like, why? So, like, is it personal? Are they being funny? I don't know. That doesn't happen anymore, but it happened more than once.
That is wild. That is absolutely that's crazy.
Well, that's what makes you think. Well, that's also what makes you think it could be some group of people that have this device that could, do this. But if that was the case, dude, they're going to a lot of work for some.
And I like to leave every possibility out on. Really, I do. Because
sure.
I'm not somebody. I don't have answers. I don't know. But I do know what I believe as far as what I've experienced of my own. So I like the fact that you do that too, Tom. Like you also come back to the there's a rational, but it could be that this is us figuring out a way, some type of manipulation or some type of way to test, maybe this, on you, to see what we can do. And you know how crummy human beings are and how, we have the things that we want power, we want money, and if we can get the upper hand on somebody else by being able to, do something that somebody else can't do, well, of course, they'll take advantage of it.
Sure.
But you still have it. Okay. Are you comfortable maybe sharing a message that you feel like they're trying to get across to you?
Well, actually, you know what? Let me tell you what we did at Ions.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. Let me tell you what we did at Ions, because it's actually related to the gray, or there's a piece of this that has the gray. So when I went to Ions, we did 200 tests, right? And I was hooked up to an EEG machine to measure the alpha waves, alpha, beta, theta, gamma, all the wave states that you are in when I was doing Upsight, right? As opposed to good memory recall and your mind's eye. Okay, so I'm hooked up to this thing. I have to be very still. They would show an image. Let's call it the Eiffel Tower. I would have to think about the image the same way you think about something with your mind's eye. Then I would see it again, and I had to see it with Upsight Vision. Okay, I did this 200 times. They measured all the brain states. Now, if you know anything about the brain states, which you probably don't, so I'll tell you, the alpha brain state is the state we are in when we are the most relaxed, right? That is when you're calm and just chill. Believe it or not, the alpha brain state, when I was using Upsight, was like Rudolph's nose. It was on fire. It was not relaxed compared to the alpha brain state with memory recall and mind's eye. And it was the biggest difference in all the wave states, right? So that was wild. And they wrote about this in the paper. The theta state is the one I thought would show the biggest difference, because that's the one you're in when you're dreaming. That is the state that you're in, mediums are in when they're having these experiences. Now, don't get me wrong. There are differences to some degree across every wave state, but the biggest one was the alpha wave state, which was, you can make a case, the most exciting, most interesting thing to discover. The reason I'm telling this story, just so people know what I did up there, also, while I'm doing this test, the grays show up, right? A gray shows up. And I wrote about this on a Twitter thread the next day. Now, when you're in this testing, you can't move, right? You have to be still so they can get a good measurement. And I knew if I started to pay attention to this thing, it was going to mess with the results. So I ignored it. It came a couple more times, but I ignored it. And it went away. It only was for a couple of the tests, and it went away. Now, if we were doing some other kind of testing, right? And I don't even know what this would be, but if we were like, okay, let's see what brain states happen when the grays show up, we could have measured that. We could have created some type of test to see